All right, so this is a hot topic. I'm gonna say something and a lot of you guys are gonna disagree, and we're gonna talk about it in today's video. Cars are 100% investments if you treat them right. Now, I'm not saying every car is gonna be an investment, but you can 100% treat cars in general as investments if you're doing the right things and you're using something called sweat equity. Now, on this channel, I've always alluded to this. I will be honest with you guys, every car that I've had in my life up until what I probably is my current car, which is a car that I've either just released to you guys or release in the near future. I just bought another car. That's probably gonna lose money, but every other car that I've had in my life, I've made money on. Yes, I've profited on it. We're not talking 2 or 3 cars. We're talking about a lot of cars. And this is not anecdotal. I'm not the only one. It's not like there's a billion-dollar car industry. In today's video, we're gonna break down how cars can be investments. We're gonna look at very, very expensive cars. We're gonna look at mid cars, and we're gonna look at cheap cars. We're gonna take a little bit of a dive into how people make money in each of those asset classes within cars. And basically, I'm making this video because some of you guys get pretty crazy in the comment section, and I've got to say, they get a little silly, and I even found myself having an argument with somebody that watched the video because they wrote this really rude comment, right? They broke down what they thought was an investment, and it made it a personal attack. And sometimes we're all weak, and they got to me. It ticked my brain. And it wasn't really about their comments about me, but mainly just that the world led them to believe that there was this instance that every time you buy a car, you're gonna lose all your money. And then it followed with other people talking about, you don't understand what car people are. You don't understand what auto enthusiasts are. That's my favorite one. I made a video recently that talked about using cars as investments, ways to make money to get yourself into a nicer, better car faster. And the most common comment was, you don't understand what an auto enthusiast is, even though your channel is called Auto Enthusiast. Auto enthusiasts want to YOLO all their money at a car. They don't care about the money. They just want to spend all their money on parts, the car. They want to waste it all. They want to drive it, and they don't care about finances. Not only do I completely, with my entire body, disagree with that, but it just can't be true because then none of us would drive supercars. That's the reality. How can you plan on driving a nice car if you lose all your money in cycles every time you want the next car? It quite literally is not what an auto enthusiast is. If you look at like, all right, what's the pinnacle? Like, what do you guys all want to drive one day, right? How are you going to get into it? Because most of us are saying a pretty expensive car. If you're not financially sensible and you don't make good financial decisions in your lifespan, how are you ever going to drive that car? Automotive sports and like auto sports and just automotive appreciation and money are tied hand in hand. And we can appreciate cars. I almost want to say automobiles. We can appreciate cars and not own them. But if you want to own them and be part of that, like if you want a Nissan GTR, if you want a Ferrari, you don't just get it. You have to have money. And it's not like you can, I'm going to be honest here. People that own Ferraris can't just work for somebody and be a W-2 employee and just like cash you can't just cash your time in for money and drive a Ferrari in your lifespan. It's not gonna happen. Maybe it happens for 1 or 2 people, but that doesn't happen. They have to look at things like assets, they have to create businesses. And look, we're gonna cycle back. Today's video is about how you can do that with cars while pursuing your passion about cars, and you can use me as an example. I don't have a Ferrari, I don't have tons of money, but I'm making money in every car that I own, and it's doubled down in that I'm not losing money like everyone says that they're losing money. I'm not losing money on the cars that I buy. Obviously, you guys can tell I'm a little heated over it, and we're gonna get into it. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, my YouTube analytics tell me that only about 3% of you guys that watch these videos are actually subscribed. So if you enjoy the content, you learned something, you wanna see more videos like this, or about my WRX, or just about whatever cars I bring to the channel, subscribe. Simple. It'd be huge for the channel. I appreciate it. It's free. Let's get into it because a lot of you guys are gonna be haters. You're gonna be in the comment section below roasting me, but whatever. So let's talk about the really expensive cars because those are the cars that really don't fit the demographic of the channel and really don't fit the average demographic on YouTube, to be honest. People make tons of money with really expensive cars. We're talking about early release cars, so like Ferrari is a great example, or the Ford GT. All right, let's talk about the Ford GT. So if you wanted the new Ford GT when it got released, you had to get an allotment, right? You had to get approved by Ford, permission, you had to apply to get that car. So you had to prove like assets, money, you had to show long-term ownership, you had to prove that you were like someone in the community. You had to do all these things that Ford then got all these applications and decided, okay, we've got 300 allotments or 300 cars. We're gonna choose this person, this person, this person, and it was probably very, very selective, and not your average Joe could get a Ford GT. And because of that, because of this like scarcity and the vehicles, every Ford GT that was delivered, instantly went up in value because then it was obtainable for all the people that had the money but weren't deemed the right person to get the allotment of the car. So what ended up happening there? We saw like the second you got your Ford GT, it was about $150,000 more on the used market because then you could sell it to somebody that had more money than you or just had a lot of money and wanted that car but didn't get the allotment. So that happens all the time. We see that with Ford GTs. That's like the lowest entry example. Ferraris are a great example. If you want to buy a brand new Ferrari, like a new generation release of a Ferrari, you have to show that you've owned Ferraris for years and years and years and years. Some of them actually make you sign a statement that says you're not going to sell your Ferrari in a certain amount of time. It's very, very stringent. The same thing happens. You take delivery of the Ferrari, price goes up. Of course it does, because other people couldn't get it, and at that point, people really want those cars. So those are the most expensive cars. People make tons and tons of money doing it, but it's not worth talking because we all don't have $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in a reputation to get those cars. But people are making money on those cars. Then we're talking about the rest of it. So anywhere cars from $0, the free clunker that isn't working, to let's say $60,000 or $70,000, because those are still cars that are obtainable for the average person. They can be. In those cars, you can treat them as investments. You can treat almost every make and model, see I'm being a little generic there, every make and model of a car as an investment. Now, not every car is going to be an investment, but it can be. So you have to combine a couple things and make some decisions, and you can have non-sweat equity deals and sweat equity deals. And what do I mean? You can make money on a car, treat it as an investment by getting a really good deal, and in simplest terms, paying less than market price for it, and so much less for market price for it that you can go a certain amount of years or miles and then sell it, and sell it for market price at that time after that miles or years, and be over the price that you paid for it. Now this takes a little bit of forecasting and studying, but fortunately with most cars, you can see on the market, like let's say I'm looking for a 2016 WRX, right? I can see 2015s, I can see 2017s, I can see 2018s, I can see the mileages and how they're being priced, and I can make decisions off that. So that's your non-sweat equity deal. It's really simple. Get a really good deal. How do you do this? You find a distressed buyer, you find something, well, we'll not talk about issues yet, but you find a distressed buyer. You find someone that needs the money right away. They're in a situation where it's hard to sell. Maybe the bank owns the title and you can make a deal and it takes them some time to get the title. Maybe there's a loss of life and somebody's just trying to sell the car. There are plenty of reasons that people need money and they need to sell their car immediately and they need it gone. For me, a lot of the times, a lot of the cars that I've bought were just not advertised well, and it just means not a lot of people were looking for it, and then the car spent a lot of time on the market. My greatest example is my 2016 WRX. That car was on Craigslist in a very small like it was basically being advertised on the New Hampshire Craigslist, but not hitting any of the other major cities, and it had been up there for some time, and I picked that car up for like $6,000 under market value because the guy had been trying to sell it for like 2 months, and he actually was picking up, so I reached out to him, and I was just like, hey, what's the deal? Like, tell me about the car. And he's like, I'm picking up my next car tomorrow. I really need to sell this car. Please make an offer. And I said to myself, all right, I'm gonna go for it because I wanna make money on this car. I'm gonna make a ridiculous offer, perfectly knowing that more likely than not, he's gonna counter or be like, dude, you're crazy, go on to it. And I've been making these offers for a while, and that's the response, and that's just what you have to live with. But in this case, the guy really needed the money because his next car was coming the next day, and he accepted it. So I got that car for thousands and thousands of dollars. I could have gone and flipped that car immediately and made a decent amount of money, but the reality is I'm paying tax anyways and I need a car that I want. So I drove it for a little bit of time, and now it's 3 years later, 30,000 miles later, and I'm selling it for, actually, because of the market, a little bit more than what I'd expected it, but I'm selling it still for $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 more than I paid for the car. And I've done that for a lot of things, but then that's the non-sweat equity thing. But what I've really done and where I've really been successful is I've used this beautiful thing called YouTube, learned some basic skills, and then combined getting somebody who needs to sell their car, right, a distressed buyer, and combined it with issues with the car that I can fix. Now, this isn't passive income. You have to fix the car. You've got to spend the money on the parts. But more often than not, you'll find distressed sellers that can't get the car to pass inspection. They don't have enough money to fix it. So the greatest example is the one that I made probably the most amount of money on is the daily driver that was on this channel, the Mazda 3. I didn't really make too many videos on it, but I bought a Mazda 3 that basically needed an entirely new suspension. It needed a bunch of stuff. It had a bunch of problems. They needed to sell the car as quickly as possible anyways to get a new car. They couldn't pass inspection, and I made them an offer for a third of the price of the car, knowing that I could fix it for not too much money because spare parts aren't actually that expensive when you consider how much you pay someone at a shop to do it if you can do it yourself. There's a lot of money to be saved there. And I got a Mazda 3 for like $2,200, and I think I drove it for 2 years. I actually put 60,000 miles on it, and I sold it for like $6,000. I can't remember right off. It's like 5,900 or something. So I more than doubled my money, and I put like a ridiculous amount of miles in driving on it. I mean, I drove that car like potentially half of its life or like a third of its life. Those are just two examples. So where I'm going with is with a few free skills, like if you learn how to work with cars, a lot of it starts to come quickly, but there are so many things that you can fix for not a lot of money that when you like, so we'll break. If a car desperately needs brakes, let's say brakes on a WRX, you're gonna pay a shop like $1,000 to do that. You can do brakes on a WRX as long as your time, your sweat equity is $0 an hour. New brakes for a WRX can be had for like $300 for parts. So all of a sudden you can say, all right, you're looking at a WRX, they really need the money. Hey, the dealer quoted me $1,000. Can you take $1,000 off? It'll fix the brakes and we have a deal. Usually they're gonna say yes if they're in the right situation, and then you buy the parts and do it yourself for $300, and then you just made $700 on the deal. I guess where I'm going here is that you can make huge investments and huge amounts of money with investments when you have a really expensive car, or you can look for the right deal and put sweat equity into a smaller car, or you can combine both and flip them constantly, and that's called the car industry, the automotive industry. That's what car dealers are. So the crazy thing to me is in the comment section when people are like, you don't understand what you're talking about, you're so disconnected from your subscribers. Maybe I am disconnected from my subscribers, and maybe that's telling me that I need to make a video like this to tell you guys that you can make money over your passion. And at the very least, you can make money by not losing money. So even if you have this deal where it doesn't put cash in your pocket, but you sell your car 3 years later and you sell it for what you paid for it, you've made money because your car has lost money. Most cars are going to depreciate. I'm not trying to say the second you drive a car off the second you drive a new car off the lot, it's going to lose like 15-20% of its value. That's a known. You're not going to make money on every car, but you can make money, and this can be an actual way that auto enthusiasts can get into that GTR. Let's say your dream car costs $100,000. If you rinse and repeat this for every car that you have during your passion and your life over cars, at the very end, you're gonna have built up so much equity that you could potentially get that GTR you were looking for. So I guess the point that I'm making in this video is even if you don't have the skills, you have the time. Even if you work a lot. I work like 80 hours a week, and sometimes this is what I have to do to fit it in. Maybe I'm a little miserable when I'm looking for cars, but I get these good deals. Car is less of a burden on my life because I've made money on the cars and it's built up. And nowadays, actually, most of my cars ever, I've always bought cash because I have this sweat equity and cash in the car. I started little and I went up. Not all you guys can speak about that, and most of the people that seem to hate me in the comment section below are like, dude, like, you don't know what you're talking about, but then have an 8-year loan on their $30,000 car that they can't afford. Now, going further, if you want to talk about finance, if you're actually educated, you're going to be like, dude, you need to have a loan in your car because your money is better spent in the market or in real estate. I couldn't agree more, but because I have a YouTube channel and I do lots of crazy things to my car, I feel just safer having the $20,000, $30,000 in the car. So if something were to happen, I'm not underwater or anything and I don't have to go through that. It's kind of like I'm spending a little extra money to deal with the stress. I get it. It should be somewhere else. I'm choosing not to do it right now because I don't need necessarily the growth of that little bit of money at this time in my life. Hopefully you guys learned something in this video. I don't want to stretch this too far out because the longer I stretch the videos out, the less likely you guys are to actually watch the full video. But people are going crazy, and some people are definitely going to go crazy in this video. If you want to see it, go to the comment section. Enjoy the rest of the day, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you later.